The champagne glass shattered on the marble floor. Marcus Bennett stood frozen, his face drained of all color as the CEO's words echoed through the ballroom. Please welcome tonight's host, my goddaughter, Elena Reyes Sterling. His wife, the woman he had introduced 30 minutes ago as his maid, the woman he told everyone just helps around the house. She was walking toward that stage now, head high, shoulders back, while 500 guests turned to stare at him. Someone laughed, then another. Marcus couldn't breathe, couldn't move, couldn't do anything except watch his entire world collapse in front of everyone he had ever tried to impress. Please sit back, relax, and follow this story to the very end. Subscribe to our channel, leave a comment telling us which city you're watching from, and let's see how far this story travels together. Now let me take you back to where it all began. Marcus Bennett's hands trembled when he read the email for the 4th time. Sterling Capital, Annual Black Tie Gala. Invitation only. He grabbed his phone and dialed Derek before he could breathe. I got it, Marcus said. The gala invitation. No way. You're serious. I'm looking at it right now. My name, +1 included. Derek whistled low. Marcus, they don't invite mid-level guys to that thing. That's for people who matter. I know what it means. Do you? Because those people aren't like us. They come from old money, they can smell ambition, and they don't always like the scent. Marcus's jaw tightened. What are you saying? I'm saying be careful, and maybe coach Elena a little. Those society wives will eat her alive if she says the wrong thing. Elena will be fine. I hope so. Just looking out for you, brother. Marcus hung up, but Derek's words stuck like thorns. Coach Elena. Society wives. Wrong thing. He stared at his reflection in the darkened computer screen. His tie was straight. His hair was perfect. His suit cost more than his father made in a month back in Detroit. He had come too far to let anything hold him back now. The drive home took 45 minutes. Marcus spent every minute rehearsing what he would say at the gala, how he would stand, how he would laugh at the right moments. His father's voice echoed in his head, the same words he'd heard 1,000 times growing up. If you don't look important, nobody will respect you. Poor men must act rich, or they will be stepped on. Marcus had watched his father adjust cheap ties in bathroom mirrors, watched him come home angry, blaming the world for not recognizing his worth. Marcus swore he would be different. He wouldn't wait for respect. He would command it. He pulled into the parking garage and checked his reflection one more time. The smile that said, I belong here. I've always belonged here. Elena was at the stove when he walked in. Gospel music played softly from her phone. She hummed along, stirring something that smelled like home. Marcus watched her for a moment. Simple cotton dress, apron tied at her waist, hair pulled back. This was the woman who had sat with him at bus stops when he couldn't afford a car. The woman who believed in him when he was nobody. But that was before he understood how the world really worked. Elena, he called out. She turned, her face lighting up. You're home early. I got something today, something big. He handed her his phone. She read the screen slowly. Sterling Capital Annual Black Tie Gala. Invitation only. She looked up. Marcus, this is wonderful. Do you understand what this means? It means they're recognizing your hard work. He shook his head. It means I'm being seen. By the right people. This is where careers are made. One conversation with the right person, and everything changes. Elena reached for his hand. I'm so proud of you. He pulled away to loosen his tie. You'll come with me, it's a couples event. Me? Everyone brings their wives. Her smile flickered. I would love to. Good, but we need to talk about some things first. Elena turned back to the stove. What kind of things? Marcus grabbed a water bottle from the refrigerator. These people are different from us. Old money, Ivy League, summer homes in the Hamptons, they expect certain things. What are you trying to say? I'm saying we need to be careful. We need to fit in. Fit in how? Wear something simple, Modest, nothing flashy. These women can spot a try-hard from a mile away. Elena's stirring slowed. A try-hard? You know what I mean. The beige dress from church would be perfect. The church dress, for a black tie gala. It's a nice dress. Elena finally turned to face him. Is there anything else? This was the moment. Marcus had rehearsed this all the way home. Actually, yes. Sit down. Elena turned off the stove and sat across from him at the kitchen table. When we get there, Marcus began, people will ask about you, and I need you to understand something about corporate culture. These people make decisions about you in 30 seconds. Those decisions stick. I understand. Do you? Marcus leaned forward. I've worked 3 years for this invitation. 3 years. One wrong impression could undo all of that. What kind of wrong impression? Marcus looked at the table. If they know too much about our background, they might not take me seriously. They might see me as someone who doesn't belong. How does that involve me? Here it was. When I introduce you, I might not say you're my wife. Not at first. Elena's face went still. If not your wife, then what? I might say you help with things at home. Keep things organized. Like a house manager. Silence. Elena stared at him with an expression he couldn't read. A house manager, she said finally. You want to tell people I'm your maid? Not maid. That's not what I said. It's what you meant. Marcus stood up. You're making this into something it's not. This is business strategy. If they think I'm married below my station, they'll never respect me. Below your station. You know what I mean. Elena rose slowly. What I'm hearing is that you're ashamed of me. I'm not ashamed. I'm being strategic. Is there a difference? Why are you making this so difficult? It's one night. After I get promoted, everything changes. But right now, I need you to help me. Elena was quiet for a long moment. You want me to pretend I am less than I am, she said slowly, so you can pretend you are more than you are. Marcus blinked. That's not fair. Isn't it? Elena, I love you, but love doesn't pay bills. Love doesn't get promotions. Success requires sacrifice. And my sacrifice is my dignity. Your sacrifice is one night of discomfort for a lifetime of security. Elena untied her apron with careful precision. She folded it and set it on the counter. I will go with you, she said quietly. I will wear the simple dress. I will smile and stay polite. And if you need to introduce me as something less than your wife, I will not contradict you. Relief flooded through Marcus. Thank you. You won't regret this. But Marcus. He stopped. Elena's voice was soft, but every word landed like a stone. Remember this moment. Remember that you asked me to do this. Remember that I agreed. Because one day you will understand what you've done. And when that day comes, I want you to remember that I gave you exactly what you asked for. She walked past him toward the bedroom. Marcus stood alone in the kitchen with cooling dinner and fading music. He told himself it would be worth it. Elena would understand eventually. He was wrong about everything. The week before the gala, Marcus transformed into someone Elena barely recognized. He bought a new tuxedo, 3 hours with a tailor, every seam perfect. He researched Richard Sterling obsessively. Business philosophies, favorite charities, golf handicap, preferred scotch. He practiced his handshake in the mirror, firm but not aggressive. Elena watched all of this quietly. She ironed his shirts, polished his shoes, listened to him rehearse his talking points. But she didn't share her own thoughts. She moved through the apartment like a ghost. Marcus noticed but didn't ask. He was too focused on his own preparation. If he had asked, she might have told him. About the phone calls from Richard Sterling. About her advisory role reviewing ethics clauses and partnership structures. About her law degree from Harvard. About the firms in New York and London. about the papers she'd published on property law and investment ethics. She might have told him that the expansion deal he kept bragging about had been shaped by her recommendations, her insights, her expertise. But Marcus never asked, and Elena never offered. Because years ago, when they first fell in love, she had decided to be loved for who she was, not for what she had accomplished. Marcus had been that person once, the man who asked real questions, who made her laugh when she hadn't laughed in months. But that man had disappeared. The night of the gala would tell her everything she needed to know. Elena stood by the apartment door in her cream gown. She had ignored Marcus's suggestion of the church dress. Her natural curls were pinned neatly. Gold earrings caught the light. She looked like quiet royalty. Marcus emerged from the bedroom, adjusting his cufflinks. He stopped when he saw her. Not bad. Not bad. His wife stood before him like a queen, and all he could manage was not bad. Thank you, Elena said. Marcus checked his watch. We should go. Timing is everything. The drive took 30 minutes. Boston's skyline glittered against the evening sky. Elena watched the city pass. Marcus rehearsed under his breath. He didn't notice her silence. Didn't notice her hands gripping each other. He noticed nothing except his own reflection. When they arrived at the Four Seasons, cameras flashed. Marcus's breath caught. This was real. He was walking the same carpet as CEOs and billionaires. Remember what I said, he whispered. Smile, stay polite, don't draw attention. I remember. And if I introduce you a certain way, just go along with it. Elena didn't respond. They stepped inside. Marcus felt his confidence surge. Crystal chandeliers, designer gowns, waiters with champagne. He belonged here. He had earned this. Marcus, over here. A group of colleagues waved from across the room. Marcus grinned and strode toward them. His pace quickened. His shoulders broadened. He didn't look back to see if Elena was following. Gentlemen, great to see you. Derek shook his hand. Can you believe this place? Harrison, a senior associate, looked past Marcus. Who's this lovely lady? Here it was. Marcus turned slightly as if just remembering Elena existed. Oh, this is Elena. She helps me keep things together at home. My little house manager. The words came out smooth, natural. The men laughed politely. Smart man, one said. Every successful person needs someone handling the home front. Marcus smiled. Exactly. Elena's face remained pleasant, composed, but something flickered behind her eyes. Recognition. Recognition that the man she married was truly gone. Nice to meet you, Harrison said to Elena. Elena's voice was steady. He's a very dedicated worker. I try to make sure his personal life runs smoothly so he can focus on his career. Well, that's admirable. The conversation moved on. Marcus dove into talk of quarterly reports, his voice growing louder, his gestures more animated. Elena excused herself. As she moved through the crowd, she caught whispers. Who was that with Marcus Bennett? Said she was his maid, house manager. Really? She doesn't carry herself like a maid. Elena found a quiet corner with a glass of sparkling water. A young woman approached with a warm smile. I couldn't help noticing your necklace. It's beautiful. Elena touched the gold pendant. Thank you. It was from my late mother. I'm so sorry. I'm Victoria. Elena. They shook hands. Victoria's eyebrows rose. Your handshake is very confident. Most people here barely make contact. My mother taught me a good handshake is the foundation of trust. Smart woman. Are you in finance? Elena smiled. You could say I'm familiar with the industry. Victoria studied her. You seem very comfortable here, more than most plus ones. Confidence isn't about where you are. It's about knowing who you are. Victoria's eyes widened. That's surprisingly profound for small talk. Small talk doesn't have to be small. They talked for several minutes. Victoria found herself increasingly impressed. This woman spoke with the precision of an attorney and the insight of a strategist. "I feel like I should know you," Victoria said. "Have we met maybe at a conference?" Elena shook her head. "Perhaps you've read some of my work. I used to write on property law and investment ethics." Victoria's glass stopped halfway to her lips. "Wait, Elena Reyes. The Elena Reyes." Elena smiled. "I used to be, before I became Elena Bennett." A heavy hand landed on Elena's shoulder. Marcus had appeared face flushed from champagne. "Sweetheart, grab me another drink." Victoria's expression shifted. Elena looked at his hand. "Of course." She walked away. Victoria watched her go. "Your house manager seems very cultured." Marcus laughed. "Elena! She's great. Very organized." Victoria nodded slowly. "Interesting." Across the room, Marcus spotted Harrison talking with two senior partners. "Excuse me," Marcus said. "I need to network." He pushed his way toward the group. "Harrison, gentlemen." Harrison nodded coolly. "Marcus, I couldn't help overhearing you mention the Chicago expansion. You know I was heavily involved in that project." One of the partners raised an eyebrow. "Were you?" "Absolutely. I flagged the issues early, suggested safeguards, really turned the whole thing around." Harrison exchanged a glance with the partners. "Interesting. Mr. Sterling mentioned someone else was advising on that." Marcus waved dismissively. "I probably contributed more behind the scenes than people realize." "I'm sure." The partners moved away. Harrison lingered. "Marcus, a word of advice." "What's that?" "Stop trying so hard. These people can smell desperation." Marcus's smile froze. "I'm not desperate. I'm ambitious. There's a fine line." Harrison walked away. Elena returned with Marcus's drink. She had overheard everything. She set the glass down carefully. "Your drink." Marcus barely glanced at her. "Thanks." She walked toward the balcony without another word. Marcus didn't notice. He was already scanning the room for his next target. Elena stood alone looking at the city lights. The man who once held her hand at bus stops now danced for strangers' approval. The man who made her laugh now made her invisible. She had given him every chance to see her, to ask, to wonder. He never did. "Elena." She turned. Richard Sterling stood behind her. Tall, gray-haired, eyes warm with recognition. "Uncle Richard." He took her hands in his. "You look beautiful." "Thank you for inviting me, though Marcus doesn't know you did." Richard's expression tightened. "I've heard what he's been telling people, about you being his house manager." Elena's smile was sad. "He asked me to play along." "And you agreed." "I wanted to see what he would do when he thought no one was watching, when he thought he had power." Richard studied her face. "And what did you learn? That I married a stranger." Richard squeezed her hands. "Are you ready?" Elena took a deep breath. "Yes. It's almost time." He kissed her forehead. "I'm proud of you. Your father would be proud too." "Thank you, Uncle." Richard walked toward the stage. His assistant whispered in his ear. "She's ready." Richard nodded. "Good. Let's begin." Marcus had positioned himself near the front of the room, best seat for visibility. He pulled Elena down beside him when she returned from the balcony. "Where were you?" "Getting air." "The CEO is about to speak. This is it. Watch and learn." Elena said nothing. The lights dimmed. A hush fell over the crowd. Richard Sterling took the stage. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. Before we begin our awards, I'd like to acknowledge someone very special." Marcus sat up straighter. "Our new international partnership owes its foundation to her keen insight and integrity." Marcus nodded along. "Probably someone from legal. She has been my trusted advisor for years. Her expertise in ethics and international law has shaped some of our most important decisions, Marcus whispered to a colleague. Who do you think it is? Maybe Patterson from compliance. Her dedication to excellence reminds me of her father, my closest friend, who we lost too soon. Marcus frowned. He didn't know this story. Tonight's host. Richard Sterling's voice filled every corner of the ballroom. My goddaughter. Marcus's champagne glass stopped halfway to his lips. Elena Reyes Sterling. The room gasped. Marcus's head turned slowly toward his wife, the woman he'd introduced as his maid, the woman he'd asked to fade into the background, the woman whose hand he wouldn't hold in public. She was rising from her seat. She was walking toward the stage. She was stepping into a spotlight that had been waiting for her all along. Applause erupted around him. Marcus sat frozen. His glass slipped. Champagne spilled across his lap. He didn't feel it. He didn't feel anything except the ground cracking beneath everything he thought he knew. Elena climbed the stage steps with perfect grace. Richard Sterling embraced her warmly and handed her the microphone. She turned to face the crowd. Her eyes swept the room. For one moment they landed on Marcus. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She looked at him the way you might look at a stranger on a train. Then she looked away. Thank you, Uncle Richard, she began. And thank you all for being here tonight. Her voice was calm, clear, commanding. My journey with Sterling Capital began quietly, behind the scenes. I learned that true leadership isn't about volume. It's about vision. It's about dignity, humility, and respect. Marcus's hands shook. Those qualities build stronger foundations than any skyscraper. People around him were whispering. Did you hear what he called her? His maid. He actually said that. And she's Sterling's goddaughter. She advised on the Chicago expansion, the one he was just bragging about. Marcus wanted to disappear, wanted the floor to open and swallow him whole. Elena continued speaking. Sometimes the people we overlook are the ones holding everything together, the ones who work without recognition, who give without expecting return, who love without condition. Her eyes found Marcus again. Tonight, let's toast to unseen strength, to quiet dignity, to the people who deserve more than they receive. She raised an imaginary glass. To them. The room erupted in applause. Standing ovation. Marcus remained seated. His legs wouldn't work. Derek appeared beside him. Dude, what did you do? Marcus couldn't answer. You told everyone she was your maid Marcus, and she's basically royalty in this company. I didn't know? You didn't know. She's your wife. How do you not know who your wife is? Marcus had no answer. Because the truth was worse than ignorance. He had never bothered to ask. Elena stepped down from the stage. Guests swarmed around her. Elena, that was incredible. I had no idea you were involved with Sterling Capital. Your perspective is so refreshing. She smiled graciously, shook hands, accepted compliments. And then she was walking. Not toward the crowd, not toward the exit, toward Marcus. His heart hammered. Maybe she would give him a chance to explain. She walked closer. Close enough that he could smell her perfume. Close enough that he could see every detail of her face. And she walked right past him. Without a word. Without a glance. Without any acknowledgement that he existed. Marcus sat alone at his table while the party swirled around him. He had wanted to be seen tonight. Now he was invisible. And for the first time in his life, he understood what he had done to the woman he claimed to love. He had made her invisible for years, and now she had returned the favor. Harrison stopped by his table, looked down at him with something between pity and contempt. You know what your problem is, Marcus? Marcus looked up with hollow eyes. It's not that you didn't know who she was. It's that you were comfortable making her small. Harrison walked away. Marcus sat alone with spilled champagne and shattered dreams. The gala continued around him. The music played. People laughed. and Marcus Bennett finally understood that he had lost something no promotion could ever replace. He had lost his wife. Not tonight. He had lost her the moment he decided his image mattered more than her dignity, and now everyone in this room knew exactly what kind of man he really was. Elena's speech ended to thunderous applause. She stood on that stage like she had been born for it, microphone in hand, 500 people rising to their feet. Marcus remained seated. His legs had turned to stone. The applause went on and on. People whistled. Someone shouted bravo, and Marcus sat there with champagne soaking through his expensive tuxedo, watching his wife transform into someone he had never known. Richard Sterling embraced Elena warmly. Cameras flashed. The moment was captured from every angle. Marcus's colleague Derek appeared beside him. "Bro, what just happened?" Marcus couldn't answer. "That's your wife up there. Your wife. And you told everyone she was your maid." "I know." "Do you? Because I don't think you understand how bad this is. Everyone heard you, Marcus. Everyone. The partners, the executives. Sterling himself probably heard what you said." Marcus's stomach dropped. He hadn't considered that. "What do I do?" Derek shook his head. "I don't know, man. I honestly don't know. But if I were you, I'd start praying." Elena stepped down from the stage. Guests surrounded her immediately. Handshakes, air kisses, business cards pressed into her palm. Marcus watched from his table, invisible. Victoria approached Elena with wide eyes. "I knew it. I knew there was something about you. Elena Reyes. I read your paper on investment ethics 3 years ago. It changed how I approach every deal." Elena smiled graciously. "Thank you. That means a lot." "Why didn't you tell me who you were?" "You didn't ask who I was. You asked what I did. There's a difference." Victoria paused, considering this. "You're right, there is." An older man in an impeccable suit joined them. "Ms. Reyes, I'm Thomas Wright from the Boston office. I've been trying to get a meeting with you for months." Elena shook his hand. "Mr. Wright, I've heard good things about your work on the harbor project." "You know about that?" "I know about everything that crosses my godfather's desk." Wright's eyebrows rose. "Perhaps we could discuss a collaboration. Your expertise in international ethics would be invaluable. Send your proposal to my assistant. I'll review it personally." Marcus watched this exchange from 20 feet away. His wife was conducting business, real business, the kind of business he had dreamed about being part of. And she hadn't looked at him once. Harrison appeared at Marcus's elbow. "Still sitting here?" Marcus turned. "What am I supposed to do?" "I don't know. Maybe try talking to your wife. She won't even look at me." Harrison's expression hardened. "Can you blame her? You introduced her as your maid, Marcus, in front of everyone, in front of people who will remember this night for years. I didn't know who she was. That's the problem. She's your wife. You should have known. You should have asked. You should have cared enough to find out." Harrison walked away, leaving Marcus alone with his shame. The minutes crawled by. Elena moved through the room like water flowing from group to group with effortless grace. She laughed at jokes. She offered insights. She remembered names and faces and details that made people feel seen. Everything Marcus had tried to fake all night she did naturally. Finally, Marcus gathered enough courage to stand. His legs wobbled, his heart pounded, but he forced himself to walk toward his wife. The crowd parted around Elena as she spoke with a group of senior partners. Marcus approached slowly, waiting for an opening. Elena saw him coming. Her expression didn't change. "Excuse me," Marcus said to the group. "Could I borrow my wife for a moment?" The partners exchanged glances. One of them smirked. "Your wife?" the man said. "I thought she was your maid." Laughter rippled through the group. Marcus's face burned. Elena's voice cut through the noise. "Gentlemen, give us a moment." The partners dispersed, still chuckling. Marcus and Elena stood facing each other. Around them the party continued. but they existed in their own bubble of tension. "Elena," Marcus began, "I can explain. Can you—" "I didn't know. I swear I didn't know any of this. The Godfather thing, the advisory role, the law degree, none of it." Elena's eyes were cold. "And whose fault is that?" Marcus opened his mouth, closed it. "In 5 years of marriage," Elena continued, "how many times did you ask about my past? How many times did you ask about my education, my career before we met, my family connections?" Marcus searched his memory. The answer made him sick. "You never asked," Elena said quietly. "Not once. You were so busy talking about yourself, so busy climbing your ladder, that you never thought to wonder who you married." "Elena, please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Sorry for what? For calling me your maid? Or for meaning it?" The question hit like a physical blow. "I didn't mean it," Marcus whispered. "Yes, you did. You meant every word. I heard it in your voice. You were embarrassed by me, Marcus. Ashamed. You thought I would drag you down." "That's not true." "Then why did you ask me to pretend? Why did you want me to fade into the background? Why did you introduce me as your house manager?" Marcus had no answer. Elena stepped closer. Her voice dropped so only he could hear. "I gave you every chance, every single chance to see me, to ask, to wonder, to be curious about the woman you share your bed with. And you never did, not once." Tears welled in Marcus's eyes. "What can I do? How do I fix this?" Elena studied his face for a long moment. Something flickered in her eyes. Pain, maybe, or disappointment. "You can't fix it tonight," she said finally. "You can't fix it with words. Words are easy. Words cost nothing." "Then what—" "Go home, Marcus." He blinked. "What?" "Go home. Leave the gala. Not as punishment, as protection, for yourself. Because the longer you stay here, the more damage you'll do." "I'm not leaving without you." "Yes, you are." "Elena, please, let me stay. Let me try to make this right." Elena's expression softened slightly, not into forgiveness, into something sadder. "You want to make it right? Then listen to me. For once in our marriage, actually listen. Go home. Wait for me there. We'll talk, really talk, and you'll answer my questions honestly, all of them." Marcus swallowed hard. Okay, I'll go." He reached for her hand. She stepped back. "Not here," she said. "Not in front of them. You wanted to perform tonight. The performance is over." Marcus knotted his throat tight. He turned and walked toward the exit. Every step felt like a mile. People watched him go. He heard whispers, saw pointed fingers, felt the weight of 500 judgments pressing down on his shoulders. At the door, he turned back one last time. Elena stood in the center of the room, surrounded by admirers. She wasn't watching him leave. Marcus stepped out into the night. The drive home took 30 minutes. Marcus drove in silence, hands white-knuckled on the steering wheel. His mind raced through every moment of their marriage, every conversation, every interaction. Every time Elena had tried to tell him something and he had interrupted with his own stories. She was right. He had never asked. He thought about their first date. They had talked for hours. Or had they? Marcus tried to remember the details. What had Elena told him about herself? He couldn't remember. He could only remember what he had told her. His goals, his ambitions, his plans for the future. Had she told him about Harvard, about the law firms, about her godfather? Maybe she had. Maybe he hadn't been listening. The realization made him physically ill. He pulled over on the side of the road and put his head against the steering wheel. "What have I done?" he whispered to the empty car. "What have I become?" His father's face flashed in his mind. The cheap ties, the bitter anger, the constant complaints about being overlooked and undervalued. Marcus had spent his whole life trying not to become his father, and he had become something worse. His father had wanted respect and never received it. Marcus had received love and treated it like nothing. He started the car again and drove home. The apartment felt different when he walked in. Same furniture, same walls, same photographs on the shelves. But now Marcus saw things he had never noticed before. Elena's books on the shelf, legal texts, volumes on ethics and international law. He had always assumed they were decorative. Her diploma framed and hanging in the hallway. Harvard Law School. He had walked past it 1,000 times without really seeing it. Her mother's photograph on the nightstand. Marcus had never asked about that woman. Never asked about Elena's childhood, or her family, or the grief she carried. He had never asked about anything. Marcus sank onto the couch, still in his champagne-stained tuxedo. He waited. The clock ticked. Hours passed. Midnight came and went. Finally, at 1 a.m, the door opened. Elena walked in, heels in hand, moving quietly, as if she didn't want to disturb the silence. She saw Marcus on the couch and paused. "You're still awake," she said. "I couldn't sleep. I couldn't do anything except wait for you." Elena set her heels by the door. She removed her earrings slowly, placing them on the small table in the entryway. Marcus watched her every movement. He had never really watched her before. Never noticed the graceful economy of her gestures, the quiet dignity in how she carried herself. "We need to talk," Elena said. "Yes, please. I want to understand." Elena walked to the armchair across from the couch. She didn't sit close to him. She maintained the distance like a boundary. "What do you want to know?" she asked. "Everything. Start from the beginning. Tell me who you are." Elena was quiet for a long moment. Then she began. "I graduated top of my class from Harvard Law, specialized in international property law and corporate ethics. I worked with firms in New York and London, published papers that are still cited in academic journals." Marcus listened, really listened for the first time. "When I was 28, my mother got sick. Very sick. She had no one else. So I left everything. My career, my connections, my future. I became her caregiver." Elena's voice remained steady, but Marcus saw her hands tighten in her lap. "For 2 years my life was hospitals and medication schedules. Watching her fade away while I held her hand. When she died, I felt empty. Like I had lost my purpose." "I'm sorry," Marcus whispered. "I didn't know. You didn't ask." The words stung, but they were true. "Around that time," Elena continued, "Uncle Richard reached out. He had been my father's best friend. He offered to help me rebuild. But I wasn't ready. I wanted something simple, something quiet, something that felt like real life instead of business deals and strategy meetings. And then you met me." Elena nodded. "At the community center. You were frustrated with the volunteer work, but you still showed up, still carried boxes, still smiled at the elderly people even when you didn't want to be there. I remember. You were kind to me, gentle. You asked questions and actually listened to the answers. You made me laugh when I hadn't laughed in months." Marcus's heart ached at the memory of who he used to be. "When we started dating," Elena said, "I made a decision. I didn't want to be loved for my credentials. I didn't want people treating me differently because of my connections. I wanted to be seen for who I was. Just Elena, not Elena Reyes Sterling. So you didn't tell me. I wanted you to love me without the weight of my past. And you did, at first. What changed?" Elena's eyes held his. "You changed. With every promotion, every raise, every step up that ladder, you became someone different. Someone who practiced smiles in mirrors. Someone who measured every relationship by its strategic value. Someone who looked at his own wife and saw a liability. I didn't see you as a liability. Then why did you ask me to pretend? Why did you tell me to dress down? Why did you introduce me as your maid?" Marcus had no defense. The truth was indefensible. "I was scared," he admitted. "Scared they would see through me. scared they would know I didn't really belong. I thought if I could control everything, control the narrative, control how people perceived me, then I could finally feel like enough. And I was just another thing to control. The words cut deep because they were true. Yes, Marcus whispered, and I hate myself for it. Elena didn't respond to his self-hatred. She didn't comfort him or tell him it would be okay. She simply asked, "What happens now?" Marcus looked at his wife, really looked at her, saw the strength she had shown by staying silent, the grace she had shown by not exposing him herself, the dignity she had maintained even when he tried to strip it away. "I don't know," he said honestly. "I don't know how to fix this. I don't know if it can be fixed." "Neither do I." "Are you leaving me?" Elena was quiet for a long time. The question hung in the air between them, heavy with years of accumulated hurt. "I don't know," she said finally. "I'm not making that decision tonight. I'm too tired for dramatic choices." Sure, relief and fear mixed in Marcus's chest. "What do you need from me?" he asked. Elena stood slowly. She looked down at him with an expression he couldn't read. "I need you to stop performing," she said. "I need you to ask questions and actually listen to the answers. I need you to see the people around you as human beings, not stepping stones." Marcus nodded rapidly. "I can do that. I will do that." "Don't promise," Elena said sharply. "Promises are just words dressed up in future tense. Show me, through action, over time, without expectation of reward." She walked toward the hallway. "Elena!" Marcus called out. She paused, but didn't turn around. "I do love you. Whatever else you believe, please believe that." Elena's voice came back soft and tired. "I believe you love me, Marcus. I'm just not sure you know what love means." She disappeared down the hallway. A moment later, he heard the guest bedroom door close. Marcus sat alone in the dark living room. His tuxedo was ruined. His reputation was destroyed. His marriage was hanging by a thread. And for the first time in years, he wasn't thinking about how to fix his image. He was thinking about how to fix himself. The next morning came too fast. Marcus opened his eyes to sunlight streaming through the windows. He was still on the couch, still in his ruined tuxedo, his neck stiff from sleeping at an awkward angle. For one moment he forgot everything. Then memory crashed back like a wave. The gala. The speech. Elena walking past him like he was invisible. He sat up quickly, ignoring the pain in his neck. The apartment was quiet. Too quiet. "Elena," he called out. No answer. He walked to the guest bedroom and knocked softly. "Elena, are you awake?" Still nothing. He opened the door. The bed was empty, made neatly, corners tucked with precision. Like Elena had never been there at all. Panic seized his chest. Had she left? Had she packed her things while he slept and walked out of his life? He rushed through the apartment, checking every room. Kitchen empty, bathroom empty, closets still full of her clothes. Then he saw the note on the kitchen counter. "Gone to the office. Don't follow me. We'll talk tonight." Marcus read it 3 times. His hands shook. She hadn't left him. Not yet. But the coldness of the note said everything about where they stood. His phone buzzed on the coffee table. Then again. Then again. A flood of messages he had ignored all night. Derek. "Dude, call me. People are talking." Harrison. "You might want to take a sick day tomorrow." His sister. "Just saw something on Instagram. What happened?" Instagram. Marcus's blood ran cold. He opened the app with trembling fingers. The first post in his feed was from the Sterling Capital official account. Elena on stage, radiant microphone in hand. The caption read, "Our incredible host and advisor, Elena Reyes Sterling, inspiring us all with her vision and grace." 4,000 likes, hundreds of comments. Marcus scrolled through them, hating himself with every swipe. She's amazing. Queen energy. Wait, isn't she married to that guy from the Boston office? The one who called her his maid? The comment had 47 replies. Marcus couldn't bring himself to read them. His phone rang. Derek's name flashed on the screen. Marcus answered. "Yeah. Brother, you are in deep trouble." "I know." "No, you don't. I just got out of a meeting. Sterling's office sent a company-wide email this morning. It was about Elena, her background, her contributions to the firm, her role in the Chicago expansion." Marcus closed his eyes. And everyone now knows that the deal you've been bragging about for months was actually her work, her advice, her strategy. "I didn't know that." "Doesn't matter. You took credit for it. Publicly. Multiple times. Including last night right before she walked on that stage." Marcus remembered Harrison's smirk, the partners exchanging glances. They had known. They had all known. "What do I do?" Marcus asked. "Honestly, I'd update my resume. Because when Sterling finds out what you said about his goddaughter, your career at this company is over." The call ended. Marcus stood alone in his kitchen phone pressed against his forehead. His career, his marriage, his reputation. Everything he had worked for was crumbling, and he had no one to blame but himself. The hours crawled by. Marcus showered, changed, and tried to eat breakfast. The food tasted like cardboard. He threw most of it away. He thought about going to the office, but Derek's warning echoed in his head. "Take a sick day. Don't show your face." So he stayed home, alone with his thoughts. He pulled Elena's law books from the shelf and actually read the titles: International Property Law, Ethics and Practice, Corporate Governance in the Global Economy, The Moral Foundations of Business. Her name was on one of them. Elena Reyes, contributing author. How had he missed this? How had he walked past these books 1,000 times without ever wondering why his wife owned a law library? Because you never asked, a voice whispered in his head. Because you didn't care. At noon, his phone rang again. Unknown number. Marcus answered cautiously. "Hello. Mr. Bennett, this is Patricia from Mr. Sterling's office." His heart stopped. "Yes. Mr. Sterling would like to meet with you. Today. 3 o'clock. His private office." Marcus swallowed hard. "Can I ask what this is about?" "I believe you already know, Mr. Bennett." The line went dead. Marcus stood frozen in his living room. Richard Sterling wanted to see him, the CEO, the man whose goddaughter he had publicly humiliated. This was it. The end of everything. At 2:45, Marcus walked into the Sterling Capitol building for what might be the last time. The lobby felt different. Security guards watched him with knowing eyes. The receptionist's smile seemed strained. Even the elevator ride felt like a journey to the executioner's block. The executive floor was quiet, too quiet. Patricia met him outside Sterling's office. "He's ready for you." Marcus straightened his tie with sweaty hands. "How bad is it?" Patricia's expression remained professional, but her eyes held a flicker of something. Pity, maybe. "Good luck, Mr. Bennett." She opened the door. Richard Sterling sat behind a massive desk, silver hair, perfectly combed, reading glasses perched on his nose. He looked up when Marcus entered. "Sit down," Sterling said, "not an invitation, a command." Marcus sat. Sterling removed his glasses and studied Marcus with eyes that had built a billion-dollar empire. The silence stretched unbearably. "Do you know why you're here?" Sterling finally asked. "Yes, sir." "Tell me." Marcus took a breath. "Because of what I said about Elena, at the gala." "What exactly did you say?" The question was a trap. Sterling already knew. He wanted to hear Marcus admit it. "I introduced her as my house manager. I implied she was my maid." Sterling nodded slowly. "In front of my partners, my clients, my colleagues. You introduced my goddaughter, a Harvard-educated attorney who has advised on some of this company's most important deals, as your maid. I didn't know who she was. Sterling's fist slammed the desk. Marcus jumped. That's not an excuse. Sterling's voice boomed through the office. That's an indictment. She's your wife, Bennett. How do you not know who your wife is? Marcus had no answer. Sterling stood and walked to the window. His back was to Marcus, shoulders tight with controlled fury. Elena asked me not to fire you, Sterling said quietly. Marcus blinked. She did? She called me this morning, first thing. Said it wasn't your career that failed, it was your character, and that firing, you would only give you someone to blame besides yourself. Marcus didn't know whether to feel grateful or devastated. Sterling turned back to face him. She's a better person than you deserve, than any of us deserve. I know. Do you? Because I watched her grow up. I held her when her father died. I supported her through law school. I watched her sacrifice everything to care for her mother. And I watched her choose you, Marcus. Choose you when she could have had anyone. Choose simplicity over status. Choose love over legacy. Sterling's voice cracked slightly. And this is how you repaid her. Marcus felt tears burning his eyes. I'm sorry. Sorry isn't enough. Sorry is just a word. Sorry doesn't undo the humiliation. Doesn't heal the betrayal. Doesn't rebuild the trust you shattered. Sterling sat back down, suddenly looking older than his years. I'm not going to fire you, he said. Not because you deserve mercy, but because Elena asked me not to, and I have never been able to refuse that girl anything. Marcus exhaled shakily. Thank you. Don't thank me. Thank her. And don't mistake this for forgiveness. Your career at this company is effectively over. You'll keep your job, but you'll never advance. Never sit in the meetings that matter. Never work on the deals that count. You'll be a ghost Bennett, invisible. The irony wasn't lost on Marcus. He had made Elena invisible. Now he would suffer the same fate. There's one more thing, Sterling said. Marcus looked up. Elena showed me something this morning, a paper she wrote years ago, about ethics in marriage and business. The parallels between professional integrity and personal integrity. Sterling pulled a document from his desk drawer. She argued that how a man treats his wife in private reveals how he'll treat his partners in public. That disrespect in the home breeds disrespect in the boardroom. That a man who diminishes his spouse will eventually diminish everyone around him. Marcus felt sick. She was right, Sterling continued. I've seen it 100 times. Men who cheat on their wives cheat on their deals. Men who lie at home lie at work. Men who make their families small make their colleagues small. Sterling slid the paper across the desk. Read it. Learn something. Maybe it's not too late for you to become the man she thought she married. Marcus took the paper with trembling hands. Sterling stood. The meeting was over. One last thing, Bennett. Marcus paused at the door. If you hurt her again, I won't care what she asks. I'll destroy you. Not just your career. Everything. Do you understand? Marcus nodded. Yes, sir. Good. Now go. Try to salvage whatever's left of your marriage. It's more than you deserve. Marcus walked out of Sterling's office on shaking legs. The executive floor stretched before him, but he barely saw it. His mind was churning. Elena had protected him. Even after everything, she had protected him. Why? He pulled out his phone and typed a message. Elena, Sterling just met with me. I know you called him. I know you asked him not to fire me. Why? The response came 30 seconds later. Because destroying you wouldn't heal me. And because somewhere inside you is the man I married. I have to believe that, or the last 5 years meant nothing. Marcus read the message 5 times. Tears streamed down his face. He texted back, I don't deserve you. Elena's reply was simple. No, you don't, but deserving was never the point of love. Marcus stood in the hallway of Sterling Capital, surrounded by people who would never look at him the same way, and wept. The rest of the week was a blur of humiliation. Colleagues avoided eye contact. Conversations stopped when he entered rooms. The projects he'd been working on were quietly reassigned to others. Derek was the only one who still talked to him. "It's bad," Derek said over coffee. "But it's not hopeless. People forget. Scandals fade. Give it 6 months and there'll be some new disaster for everyone to gossip about." "I don't care about the gossip," Marcus said. "I care about Elena." Derek raised an eyebrow. "That's new." "What do you mean?" "I mean, a week ago you were terrified of what people would think about your wife. Now you're saying you don't care. That's a big shift." Marcus stared into his coffee. "I almost lost her, Derek. Not just her love. Her. The woman she actually is. I was so worried about how she made me look that I never saw how she made me feel." Derek was quiet for a moment. "That's deep, brother." "It's true." "So what are you going to do about it?" Marcus looked up. "I don't know. She's barely speaking to me. She sleeps in the guest room. We have dinner in silence. It's like living with a polite stranger." "Have you tried talking to her?" "Every time I try, I say the wrong thing. I try to apologize, and it sounds like I'm making excuses. I try to explain, and it sounds like I'm defending myself. I don't know how to just be honest." Derek leaned forward. "Maybe that's the problem. You've spent so long performing that you don't know how to be real anymore." The words hit Marcus like a truck. Because they were true. He had been performing his whole life, performing confidence he didn't feel, performing success he hadn't earned, performing a version of himself that didn't exist. And somewhere along the way, he had lost track of who he actually was. That night, Marcus came home to find Elena sitting in the living room, a glass of wine in her hand, staring at nothing. He set down his briefcase. "Hi. Hi. Can I sit?" Elena gestured to the chair across from her, not the spot next to her on the couch. The distance felt intentional. Marcus sat. The silence stretched between them. Finally, he spoke. "I've been thinking. About what you said. About how I changed." Elena didn't respond. She just waited. "I think I've been pretending so long that I forgot what was real. I built this whole persona, this ambitious, confident, climbing the ladder guy, and I thought that's who I needed to be, who you needed me to be." Elena's voice was quiet. "I never needed you to be that. I know that now. But I convinced myself that's what success looked like, what love looked like. I thought if I could just achieve enough, accomplish enough, then I would finally feel like enough." "And did you?" Marcus shook his head. "No. The more I achieved, the emptier I felt. So I kept chasing, kept climbing, kept performing, and I dragged you into the performance without even realizing it." Elena set down her wine glass. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I want you to understand, not to excuse what I did. There's no excuse, but to explain. I need you to know that the man who called you his maid, that man was wearing a mask. And the mask was suffocating both of us." Elena studied him for a long moment. Her eyes searched his face like she was looking for something. "I want to believe you," she said finally. Marcus's heart leaped. "You can. I swear you can." But wanting to believe and actually believing are different things. "You've broken my trust, Marcus, not just at the gala. For years, little moments, little dismissals, little ways of making me feel small so you could feel big." Marcus nodded slowly. "I know. And I don't expect you to forgive me overnight. I just want a chance, a real chance, to show you who I can be." Elena was quiet. The clock on the wall ticked steadily. "I spoke with Uncle Richard today," she said. "He told me about your meeting." Marcus tensed. What did he say? That you cried, that you apologized, that you didn't make excuses or try to justify yourself? "I didn't." He also said you looked like a man who had finally seen himself clearly. Marcus swallowed hard. I have. And what I saw wasn't pretty. Elena stood and walked to the window. Her back was to him, her silhouette framed against the city lights. I'm not ready to forgive you, she said. I'm not sure I'll ever be completely ready, but I'm not ready to give up either. Marcus rose from his chair. What does that mean? Elena turned to face him. Her eyes glistened in the dim light. It means we start over. Not from the beginning. We can't erase 5 years, but from here. From this moment. With truth instead of performance. With questions instead of assumptions. With respect instead of control. I can do that. I will do that. Elena held up a hand. Don't promise. I'm tired of promises. Just do it. Day by day. Choice by choice. And maybe eventually I'll learn to trust you again. Marcus wanted to reach for her, wanted to hold her and promise everything would be okay. But he remembered her words. Don't promise, just do it. So he stayed where he was, respecting her space, respecting her boundaries. Okay, he said simply, day by day. Elena nodded. Something shifted in her expression. Not forgiveness, not love, but something smaller, something like hope. I'm going to bed, she said. The guest room for now, but maybe not forever. She walked past him toward the hallway. At the door she paused. Marcus, yes, ask me something. Something real. Something you've never asked before. Marcus thought for a moment. Hundreds of questions he should have asked years ago flooded his mind. He chose one. What was your mother's name? Elena's breath caught. In 5 years of marriage, he had never asked. Grace, she whispered. Her name was Grace. Tell me about her. Tomorrow, will you tell me about Grace? Elena's eyes filled with tears. She nodded silently. Then she disappeared down the hallway. Marcus stood alone in the living room. But for the first time in weeks, the silence didn't feel like a punishment. It felt like a beginning. The next morning, Marcus woke before dawn. He hadn't slept much. His mind kept replaying Elena's words. Her mother's name, Grace. 5 years of marriage, and he had never asked. What else had he missed? What other pieces of her life had he ignored? He got up quietly and walked to the kitchen. Elena's coffee maker sat on the counter. He had never made her coffee. Not once. She always made it for him. Today would be different. He figured out the machine measuring grounds carefully filling the water reservoir. The smell of fresh coffee filled the apartment just as Elena emerged from the guest room. She stopped when she saw him. You made coffee? I'm learning. Elena walked slowly to the counter. She picked up the mug he had set out for her. Took a sip. Her eyebrows rose slightly. It's good? Don't sound so surprised. A ghost of a smile crossed her face. I'm not surprised. Just noticing. They stood in the kitchen drinking coffee in silence. But it was a different silence than before. Less cold, more careful. You asked about my mother, Elena said finally. Marcus set down his mug. I did. Do you really want to know? Or were you just saying what you thought I wanted to hear? The question was a test. Marcus knew it. I really want to know. I want to know everything I should have asked years ago. Elena studied his face for a long moment. Then she nodded. Sit down. This might take a while. They moved to the living room. Elena sat on the couch this time. Marcus sat beside her close enough to listen far enough to respect her space. My mother was a teacher, Elena began. Elementary school, 3rd grade. She loved children. Loved watching them discover things for the first time. Marcus listened without interrupting. When I was young, she used to take me to her classroom after hours. I'd sit at one of the little desks and she'd teach me things. Not school things, life things. how to be kind, how to be curious, how to see people instead of just looking at them. Elena's voice softened. She used to say, "Everyone has a story, mija. Your job is to ask the right questions." Marcus felt the words like a knife. Ask the right questions. He had never asked any questions at all. "When I got into Harvard, she cried for 3 hours," Elena continued. "Happy tears, proud tears. She kept saying, 'My baby is going to change the world.' She believed that, really believed it. She sounds amazing." She was. She was everything. Elena paused. Her hands gripped the coffee mug tighter. "When she got sick, I was in London, working on a merger that would have made my career. My phone rang at 2 in the morning. Uncle Richard, he said, 'Come home, Elena. It's time.'" Marcus watched Elena's face, saw the pain she had carried alone for years. "I caught the first flight, sat by her bed for 6 weeks, watched her fade, held her hand when she stopped breathing." Tears streamed down Elena's cheeks. She didn't wipe them away. "After she died, I couldn't go back to work. Couldn't pretend to care about mergers and acquisitions when the most important person in my world was gone. So I stopped. Walked away from everything." "That's when you met me," Marcus said quietly. Elena nodded. "You showed up at the community center. Annoyed, impatient, clearly there because someone made you be there." Marcus winced. "I remember. But then you started helping. Really helping. An elderly woman dropped her groceries, and you spent 20 minutes picking everything up, talking to her, making her laugh. I watched you transform from resentful to engaged. I didn't know anyone was watching. That's why it mattered. You were kind when you thought no one could see." Marcus's throat tightened. "I used to be that person." "You were, and I fell in love with that person, the man who didn't need an audience, who did good things simply because they were good." Elena turned to face him directly. "Where did he go, Marcus? What happened to him?" The question hung in the air. Marcus had been asking himself the same thing for days. "I think I killed him," Marcus said slowly. "Every time I chose image over substance. Every time I performed instead of connected. Every time I put my career above my character. I killed him piece by piece." Elena didn't respond. She just waited. "My father was a bitter man," Marcus continued. "He spent his whole life feeling overlooked, undervalued. He used to tell me that poor men had to act rich or they'd be stepped on. You've mentioned him before, but you never really talked about him. Because I was ashamed of him, of where I came from, of the poverty and the anger, and the feeling that I would never be enough." Marcus stood and walked to the window. "I told myself I wouldn't be like him, wouldn't be bitter, wouldn't blame the world. But I just found a different way to be broken." "What do you mean?" Marcus turned back to face her. "My father demanded respect and never got it. I demanded worship and destroyed anyone who didn't provide it, including you." Elena set down her coffee mug. "That's the first truly honest thing you've said in years." "I know, and I'm sorry it took me so long." They sat in silence for a moment. Then Elena spoke again. "What are you going to do about it?" Marcus had thought about this all night. "I booked an appointment with a therapist, tomorrow morning." Elena's eyebrows rose. "You did?" "Derek recommended someone. A woman who specializes in narcissistic tendencies and relationship repair." "Narcissistic tendencies?" Marcus nodded grimly. "I looked it up online. The constant need for admiration. The lack of empathy. The willingness to use other people to build yourself up. It sounded like reading my own biography." Elena was quiet for a long moment. "That took courage, to see yourself clearly like that. It took you almost leaving me. It took public humiliation. It took Sterling threatening to destroy my life. I wish I could say I figured it out on my own, but I didn't. I had to be broken first. Sometimes that's what it takes. Marcus sat back down beside her, closer this time. I also signed up to volunteer at the community center where we met. Elena looked at him sharply. Why? Because that's where I was my best self. Maybe going back will help me find him again. Elena didn't respond immediately. She stood and walked to the bookshelf, running her fingers along the spines of her law books. I want to believe you're changing, she said. I really do. But I've heard promises before. Beautiful promises. And they meant nothing. Marcus nodded. I know. That's why I'm not promising anything. I'm just doing, day by day, like you said. Elena turned to face him. Then keep doing. For months. Maybe years. And we'll see. Okay. I have to go to work now. Uncle Richard needs me for a meeting. Can I make you lunch for later? Elena tilted her head, surprised. You want to make me lunch? I want to take care of you. The way you've been taking care of me for 5 years without any acknowledgement. Something shifted in Elena's expression, softened slightly. Peanut butter and jelly, she said. On wheat bread, no crust. Marcus smiled. No crust. Got it. Elena grabbed her bag and walked to the door. She paused with her hand on the knob. Marcus. Yes. This. What you're doing right now. Keep doing it. Even when it feels pointless. Even when you want to give up. Keep doing it. I will. She left. The door clicked shut behind her. Marcus stood in the empty apartment, feeling something he hadn't felt in years. Hope. The therapy session was brutal. Dr. Mitchell was a small woman with sharp eyes and absolutely no tolerance for excuses. Tell me why you're here, she said, pen poised over her notepad. Marcus took a breath. I publicly humiliated my wife, called her my maid in front of 500 people, then found out she's one of the most accomplished people in the room. Dr. Mitchell didn't blink. Why did you do it? Because I was ashamed of her. I thought she would make me look bad. And did she? No, I made myself look bad. She was the only one who looked good. Dr. Mitchell nodded. Let's go deeper. Why were you ashamed of your wife? Marcus shifted in his seat. I don't know. I told myself it was about fitting in, about corporate culture, about strategy. But I think the truth is uglier than that. Go on. Marcus stared at his hands. I think I needed her to be small so I could feel big. I think I kept her in a box because having her full size would have made me feel inadequate. Dr. Mitchell wrote something down. That's a significant insight for a first session. I've had a lot of time to think. Thinking is good, but thinking isn't changing. What are you willing to do differently? Anything, everything, whatever it takes. Dr. Mitchell set down her pen. Here's what I see, Mr. Bennett. You've built an identity around achievement and external validation. When you feel inadequate, you compensate by diminishing others. It's a pattern that probably started in childhood. Marcus nodded. My father. Tell me about him. For the next 30 minutes, Marcus talked about things he had never told anyone. The poverty, the shame, the constant feeling of not being enough, his father's bitter anger, his own determination to escape. I wanted to be different from him, Marcus said, but I just found a different way to be broken. Dr. Mitchell leaned forward. Your father demanded respect and became bitter when he didn't get it. You demanded worship and became cruel to ensure you did. Different strategies, same wound. How do I fix it? You don't fix it. You heal it. Slowly. Through awareness. Through different choices. Through learning to find your worth internally instead of externally. How long does that take? Years. Maybe a lifetime. The question isn't how long. The question is whether you're willing to do the work even when it's hard, even when you don't see progress, even when you want to go back to old patterns. Marcus thought about Elena, about the pain in her eyes, about the trust he had shattered. I'm willing, he said. I have to be. Dr. Mitchell nodded. Then let's begin. The weeks that followed were the hardest of Marcus's life. He went to therapy twice a week. He volunteered at the community center every Saturday. He came home from work and asked Elena about her day instead of talking about his own. It felt awkward at first, unnatural, like learning to write with his opposite hand. But slowly things started to shift. Elena began opening up. Small things at first. A story about a colleague, a memory from law school, an opinion about something she read. Marcus listened, really listened, asked follow-up questions, remembered details to bring up later. You're different, Elena said one evening 2 months after the gala. Different how? You're actually here, present. Before even when you were in the room you were somewhere else. Planning your next move. Rehearsing your next performance. Now you're just here. I'm trying. I know, and I notice. That night, Elena didn't go to the guest room. She hesitated at the hallway, then turned back. I think I'll sleep in our room tonight. Marcus's heart leaped. Really? Don't make it weird. It's just sleep. I won't. I promise. They lay in bed together for the first time in months, not touching, not talking, just existing in the same space. But it felt like progress. At work, things were harder. Marcus had become invisible just as Sterling predicted. Important meetings happened without him. Big projects went to other people. Colleagues who used to compete for his attention now barely acknowledged his existence. It should have devastated him. The old Marcus would have been crushed. But the new Marcus found something surprising. Relief. Without the constant pressure to perform, to impress, to climb, he could actually breathe. He did his work. Did it well. Went home at reasonable hours. Stopped checking his email obsessively. Derek noticed the change. You seem different, man. I am different. Good different or giving up different? Marcus considered the question. I think I spent so long chasing something that didn't exist. Some perfect version of success that would finally make me feel whole. I never got there, never would have gotten there. Because the problem wasn't my achievements. The problem was me. Derek whistled low. That's some deep self-awareness. Therapy helps. Maybe I should try it. Maybe you should. 3 months after the gala, Elena came home with news. Uncle Richard wants to promote me, officially, Executive Vice President of Ethics and Compliance. Marcus felt a flash of the old jealousy. His wife surpassing him. His wife succeeding while he stagnated. Then he caught himself, recognized the pattern, made a different choice. That's incredible, he said. You deserve it. Elena studied his face. You mean that? I do. I'm proud of you, Elena, genuinely proud. She smiled, a real smile, the first real smile he had seen in months. Thank you. We should celebrate. Let me take you to dinner. You want to take me to dinner? I want to take my wife, the executive vice president, to the nicest restaurant in Boston and tell everyone who will listen how amazing she is. Elena laughed. Actually laughed. Now you want to show me off? I want to honor you. There's a difference. Elena stepped closer. For the first time since the gala, she initiated contact. Her hand touched his cheek gently. You're learning, she said softly. I'm trying. I know, and it matters. They went to dinner that night. Marcus did exactly what he promised. Introduced Elena to the maitre d' as his brilliant wife. Told their waiter about her promotion. Raised a toast in front of the entire restaurant. To Elena Bennett, he said, voice carrying proudly. The smartest, most accomplished, most patient woman I have ever known. I don't deserve her, but I'm going to spend the rest of my life trying. Elena's eyes glistened. Marcus. I mean every word. I wasted 5 years not seeing you. I won't waste another day. She reached across the table and took his hand. It was the first time she had reached for him since the gala. Marcus held on like his life depended on it. Because maybe it did. That night they talked until 3 in the morning. Elena told him about her father, about watching him die when she was 12, about the emptiness that followed, about Richard Sterling stepping in to fill the void. Marcus told her about his childhood, the real version, not the sanitized story he told at networking events, the poverty, the food stamps, the nights when his parents fought about money loud enough to wake the neighbors. "I've never told anyone that," Marcus admitted. "Why not?" "Because I was ashamed. I thought if people knew where I came from, they wouldn't respect me." Elena squeezed his hand. "The opposite is true. Knowing where you came from makes me respect you more. You built yourself from nothing. That takes strength. I built the wrong version of myself. Then build a new one. You're doing it already." Marcus looked at his wife in the dim light of their bedroom. Really looked at her. Saw the lines around her eyes. The gray hairs she had stopped coloring. The woman who had stood by him through his worst moments. "I love you," he said. "Not because of what you can do for me. Not because of your connections or your credentials. Just you. Elena. The woman who makes bad jokes and leaves coffee cups everywhere and hums gospel songs when she thinks no one's listening." Tears streamed down Elena's face. "That's the first time you've said that. And I believed you. I'll say it every day, until you always believe me." She leaned forward and kissed him. Soft, tender, full of something that felt like forgiveness. Not complete forgiveness. That would take more time. But a beginning. A real beginning. 1 year later, the invitation arrived. Marcus stared at the elegant envelope on their kitchen counter. Sterling Capital Annual Black Tie Gala. The same event that had destroyed his life 12 months ago. Elena walked in and saw his face. It came. It came. She picked up the envelope. "Uncle Richard told me he was sending one. He wanted to know if you were ready." Marcus's hands trembled slightly. "Am I?" Elena studied him with eyes that had learned to see past his masks. "That's not my question to answer." Marcus took the envelope from her hands, held it like it might explode. "Last year, this invitation meant everything to me. I would have done anything to be in that room. I did do anything. I sacrificed you. Our marriage, my integrity. And now," Marcus set the envelope down. "Now I don't care about being in that room. I care about being worthy of standing next to you." Elena's expression softened. "That's growth. Is it enough?" Elena was quiet for a moment. Then she took his hands in hers. "A year ago you asked me to pretend to be your maid. Tonight I'm asking you to be my date, my partner. My husband. No masks, no performances. Just us." Marcus felt tears prick his eyes. "You want me to go with you? I want you to walk into that room and show everyone who you've become, not for them, for yourself, for us." Marcus pulled her into a hug, held her tight. "I'll be there. I promise." Elena pulled back and looked at him. "Don't promise. Just do." He smiled. "I've learned." The night of the gala. Marcus stood in front of the mirror. Same venue as last year. Same tuxedo even. He had considered buying a new one, but Elena had stopped him. "Wear the old one," she had said. "Let it remind you of who you were, and how far you've come." He adjusted his tie with steady hands. The man in the mirror looked different than a year ago. Same face, same features. But something in the eyes had changed. Less hunger, less desperation, more peace. Elena appeared behind him. She wore a deep burgundy gown that made her look like royalty. Her hair was swept up elegantly. Diamond earrings caught the light. "You look beautiful," Marcus said. "Thank you." "No, I mean it. Not beautiful like a compliment. Beautiful like a truth. You are the most beautiful woman I have ever known." Elena smiled, a real smile. You've been practicing your honesty. Every day, with Dr. Mitchell's help. She's good for you. She is, but you're better. They walked to the car together. Marcus opened her door, waited for her to settle, then walked around to the driver's side. The drive to the Four Seasons was quiet. But it was a comfortable quiet. A married quiet. The kind that comes from knowing someone so well that words become optional. As they approached the venue, Marcus felt the old anxiety creeping back. The cameras, the crowds, the judgment. Elena sensed it. You okay? Nervous. About what? About being in that room again. About what people will say. About whether I've really changed or if I'm just pretending again. Elena reached over and took his hand. Let me tell you something my mother used to say. What? Character isn't what you do when everyone's watching. Character is what you do when no one can see. Marcus squeezed her hand. I've been working on that. I know. I've been watching. They pulled up to the entrance. Cameras flashed. Valets rushed forward. Marcus took a deep breath. Here we go. Here we go, Elena echoed. They stepped out of the car together. This time Marcus didn't walk ahead. He didn't scan the crowd for important people to impress. He stayed beside Elena, her hand in his, moving at her pace. The lobby was crowded with familiar faces. Marcus saw Harrison near the entrance, Derek by the bar. Several partners who had witnessed his humiliation last year. They all turned to look at him. Marcus felt the weight of their gazes, the judgment, the curiosity, the expectation of failure. He kept walking. Harrison approached first. Marcus, didn't expect to see you here. Evening, Harrison? Harrison's eyes flicked to Elena, then back to Marcus. You look different. I am different. We'll see. Harrison walked away. Derek appeared a moment later. You actually came, Derek said. Brave move. Elena asked me to be here, so I'm here. Derek studied his friend's face. You really have changed, haven't you? I'm trying. It shows. Derek clapped him on the shoulder. Good luck tonight. They moved through the crowd. Elena greeted colleagues and partners with easy grace. Marcus stayed by her side, introducing himself simply. I'm Marcus, Elena's husband. Not his title, not his department, not his accomplishments, just Elena's husband. It felt right. Richard Sterling found them near the refreshment area. The CEO looked older than Marcus remembered, more tired, but his eyes still held that sharp intelligence. Marcus, Sterling said. You came. Yes, sir. Elena tells me you've been doing well. Therapy, volunteering, actually listening. I've been trying. Sterling nodded slowly. I owe you an apology. Marcus blinked. Sir, a year ago, I threatened to destroy you. I was angry, protective of Elena. I let my emotions override my judgment. You had every right to be angry. I did. But anger isn't justice, and threats aren't leadership. Sterling extended his hand. I've watched you this year, watched you struggle, watched you grow. I respect what you've done. Marcus shook his hand. Thank you, sir. That means more than you know. Sterling turned to Elena. You chose well, eventually. Elena laughed. He's a work in progress. Aren't we all? Sterling moved on to greet other guests. Marcus stood frozen, processing what had just happened. Elena touched his arm. Breathe. Did he just apologize to me? Uncle Richard has been watching you. He sees what I see. What do you see? Elena looked at him with eyes full of something that might have been love. I see the man I married. The one who was kind when no one was watching. The one who asked questions and actually listened to the answers. He was gone for a while, but he came back. Marcus felt his eyes burning. Elena, Don't cry. You'll ruin your tuxedo. He laughed despite himself. Too late. The evening continued. Marcus mingled without performing, asked questions without calculating their value, listened to boring stories without checking his watch. He noticed things he had missed last year. The way people's eyes lit up when someone actually paid attention to them. The relief on faces when conversations didn't feel like competitions. Connection, he realized, was so much easier than performance. At 9 o'clock, the lights dimmed. Richard Sterling took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. Before we begin our program, I'd like to share something personal. The room quieted. A year ago, at this very event, I watched something painful happen. Someone I love was hurt. Someone she loved did the hurting. Marcus's stomach dropped. He knew what was coming. Elena squeezed his hand. I was angry, Sterling continued. Furious. I wanted to destroy the person responsible, but my goddaughter asked me not to. She said destruction wouldn't heal her. She said the person she married was still in there somewhere. She believed in redemption when I only believed in revenge. The room was completely silent. Over the past year, I've watched that person prove her right. I've watched him face his demons, admit his failures, do the hard work of becoming someone better. Sterling's eyes found Marcus in the crowd. I've learned something from watching that transformation. I've learned that people can change, not easily, not overnight, but genuinely, completely, if they're willing to be broken first. Marcus felt tears streaming down his face. He didn't try to hide them. Tonight, I want to acknowledge that growth. Because too often we celebrate people for what they achieve. We rarely celebrate them for who they become. Sterling raised his glass. To second chances, to hard work, to the courage it takes to look in the mirror and not like what you see, and to the even greater courage it takes to become someone different. The room raised their glasses. 500 people drinking to his redemption. Marcus couldn't breathe. Elena leaned close. Breathe. I can't. You can. You're okay. This is okay. Marcus looked at his wife, the woman he had almost lost, the woman who had believed in him when he didn't deserve it, the woman who had given him chance after chance until he finally got it right. I love you, he whispered. I know. No, I mean I love you, not the idea of you, not what you can do for me, not your connections or your credentials, just you. The woman who leaves coffee cups everywhere. The woman who hums gospel songs. The woman who had every reason to leave and chose to stay. Elena's eyes glistened. That's the best thing you've ever said to me. I'll say it every day. Forever. She kissed him. Right there in the middle of the ballroom with 500 people watching. This time, Marcus didn't care who saw. After the ceremony, Victoria found them near the exit. I have to apologize, she said to Elena. Last year, when I asked if you were really his maid, I was being cruel. Elena shook her head. You were reacting to what you heard. Still, it wasn't kind. Victoria turned to Marcus. And I owe you an apology too. Marcus raised an eyebrow. For what? For enjoying your humiliation. I watched you fall and I felt satisfied. That's not who I want to be. Marcus considered this. A year ago, I would have done the same thing, watched someone fail and felt good about it. We're all capable of cruelty. Victoria nodded. I suppose we are. The question is whether we stay cruel, or whether we choose something different. Victoria studied his face. You really have changed. I'm trying. It shows. She extended her hand. Fresh start. Marcus shook it. Fresh start. Victoria walked away. Derek appeared a moment later, slightly drunk but grinning. Dude, Sterling just toasted you. In front of everyone. That's insane. I know. A year ago, you were the cautionary tale. Now you're the redemption story. Marcus shook his head. I'm not a story. I'm just a man who made mistakes and got the chance to fix them. Derek threw an arm around his shoulder. That's exactly what a redemption story is, brother. They left the gala at midnight. Elena kicked off her heels in the car and sighed with relief. My feet are killing me. You were amazing tonight. I didn't do anything. You stood by me. That's everything. Elena looked at him. Do you remember what you said to me a year ago before the gala? Marcus winced. Which part? The part where you asked me to pretend to be your maid. I remember. Do you remember what I said? Marcus thought back. You said you would go with me. You said you would wear the simple dress. You said you wouldn't contradict me. And you told me to remember that moment. You said one day I would understand what I had done. Elena nodded. Do you understand now? Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I understand that I almost lost the best thing that ever happened to me. I understand that dignity isn't something you can take from someone else. I understand that love without respect is just possession. And I understand that the man who asked you to pretend was terrified. Terrified of being seen. Terrified of being known. Terrified of being loved for who he really was. Elena reached over and took his hand. Are you still terrified? No, I'm grateful. Grateful that you saw through my masks. Grateful that you waited while I figured out how to take them off. Grateful that you're still here. They drove home in comfortable silence. The city lights blurred past. The radio played soft jazz. When they pulled into the garage, Elena didn't get out immediately. Marcus, yes, I forgive you. The words hit him like a wave. He had hoped for them, prayed for them, but hearing them spoken aloud was something else entirely. You do. I do. Not because you earned it, not because you proved yourself, but because carrying anger was exhausting me, and because somewhere along the way, the man I married came back. Tears streamed down Marcus's face. Elena. Don't speak. Just listen. He nodded. Forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean what happened was okay. It means I'm choosing to let go of the weight. I'm choosing us, our future, the family we might have someday. Marcus's breath caught. Family, Elena smiled. I've been thinking about it, not yet, but someday, if you're ready. I want that, more than anything. Then we'll work toward it, together, day by day. They walked into their apartment, the same apartment where Marcus had asked Elena to pretend to be something less than she was, the same apartment where she had told him to remember that moment. But it felt different now, lighter, more like home. Elena went to the bedroom. Their bedroom. The guest room had been empty for months. Marcus lingered in the living room for a moment. He looked at the photographs on the shelves. Their wedding day. Vacations. Ordinary moments he had barely noticed when they happened. One photo caught his eye. It was from the community center where they had met. Elena had taken it without his knowledge. He was carrying boxes looking annoyed, but there was something genuine in his expression. Something real. That was the man Elena had fallen in love with. That was the man Marcus was learning to be again. He turned off the lights and walked to the bedroom. Elena was already in bed, eyes half closed. Coming to sleep, she murmured. In a minute. He stood at the window looking out at the city. Boston sparkled below, millions of lives intersecting and separating, millions of stories being written and rewritten. His story had almost ended in humiliation, in divorce, in the destruction of everything that mattered. Instead, it had become something else. A story about change, about growth, about the terrifying, beautiful work of becoming a better person. Elena's voice came from the bed. What are you thinking about? Marcus turned to face her. I'm thinking about how close I came to losing you. How close I came to being the villain of my own story. But you're not. No, because you gave me a chance. Because you believed in a version of me that I couldn't see. Elena patted the space beside her. "Come to bed, Marcus. Tomorrow's a new day." He climbed in beside her. She nestled against his chest, her breathing already slowing toward sleep. "Elena. Thank you for everything, for staying, for fighting, for loving me when I made it so hard to love me." She pressed a kiss against his chest. "That's what marriage is, loving someone through the hard parts. I'll spend the rest of my life making the easy parts worth it." "I know you will." Her breathing deepened, sleep taking her. Marcus lay awake a little longer, holding his wife, feeling her heartbeat against his skin. A year ago, he had walked into a gala desperate to be seen by strangers. He had sacrificed his wife's dignity on the altar of his ambition. He had been willing to make her small so he could feel big. Tonight, he had walked into that same gala as a different man. A man who understood that true respect isn't demanded, it's earned. A man who knew that love without dignity isn't love at all. A man who had learned the hardest lesson there is. The people who matter most don't need you to be impressive. They just need you to be real. Marcus closed his eyes and let sleep take him. Beside him, Elena breathed softly. The woman who had seen him at his worst and waited for his best. The woman who had taught him that character isn't what you show the world. It's what you show the people closest to you when no one else is watching. And as he drifted into dreams, Marcus made one final promise. Not out loud, not as a performance, just a quiet vow spoken only to himself. He would never make her small again. He would never choose image over integrity. He would never forget that the greatest success isn't what you achieve, it's who you become. Because in the end, Marcus Bennett learned something that changed his life forever. Respect isn't something you demand from a room full of strangers. Respect is something you practice every single day with the person who sleeps beside you. And that truth, more than any promotion or achievement or recognition, was the only thing that ever really mattered.